What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the ZMAM show. As we are now past the midpoint of October, I'm saddened in my heart, Adam, because the horror and thriller movie marathon is coming to an end. But we're talking Friday the 13th and the original movie of 1980 and Halloween 1978. And which is the stronger movie and I guess killer in general? Adam, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. No, and I'd already seen Friday the 13th. Just watch Halloween for the first time, catching up. Looking forward to talking about it.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people that may already know me in general and probably know where I lie when it comes to Halloween versus Friday the 13th. Now, you may not know that I love both franchises almost equally. It's just that in my mind, there is a stronger story and cinema style that just worked. And that's what we're going to get into tonight. So, Halloween 1978, they were one of the staples, Adam, that basically started this, maniac killer, I don't, what do you want to call it? Movie phenomena.
Yeah, definitely. I think there were like The Hills Have Eyes and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think technically had renditions in the 1970s as well, early to mid 1970s. But ultimately, yeah, Halloween was like the first kind of like solo killer, what's going on with this guy kind of thing. And yeah, it really kind of laid the groundwork for Friday the 13th, which then helped lay the groundwork for various other franchises that came out, like the Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream down the road, and just various things that came out down along the way.
Absolutely. And we may bring up Nightmare on Elm Street in between too, because I know we've both seen that one as well. But we're not talking the whole franchise movies tonight. We're really kind of talking about the two staple first movies, but all the same, we'll talk a little bit about just the movies that followed and some of the history. But yeah, so when it comes to Michael Myers and the story, and this was a John Carpenter film, it had I think I don't want to get it wrong, but it's around a $375,000 budget. Okay,
Sounds right.
that is insane for a movie. Now, obviously, they weren't paying their actors very much. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis was brand new to the show and to the biz. Amongst some of the others, Donald Pleasance was their highest paid actor on that film. Did you know that?
I did know he was a John Carpenter regular. I guess it makes sense that he would be the highest paid, but yeah, I didn't know it.
Yeah, so he already had a bit of an acting history going on there, and so they wanted to make sure they had him to kind of pull in some other people when they came to see the film, so they could see a named actor. But the fact that over the years it has grossed more than $45 million off of that small little less than $500,000 budget is just ridiculous.
It's a heck of a return on investment, and I mean, as we get into it, I think we can both talk to as why we think it did. But yeah, totally agree.
Right on. So let's talk it. So the things that we love about Halloween, at least some things that straight off, I love the music score that John Carpenter did. He did a lot of his own music in his movies. The story of Michael Myers in general, this purely evil young boy who kills his sister at such a young age, and he sits just humanly impatient, as Dr. Loomis said so many times, waiting for the night when he could come back and unleash his hell once again on Haddonfield and his other sister that was still out there.
Yeah, and honestly, I think one of the things that really attracted me about the Halloween series was not just that Michael Myers was such a creepy character, but that in many ways the story was about him, even though he was hardly ever present in the movie. And so, like, one of the things that I think distinguishes this from a lot of other slasher movies is that rather than being about the victims that are being killed, I almost feel like the victims are the side character, and Michael Myers is really just kind of a silent lead. So so go ahead.
Yeah, you're right, though. He is a silent lead because he doesn't say anything throughout the whole movie. And Donald Pleasance and even Jamie Lee Curtis, although big-time main characters throughout this film and a lot of screen time, and good screen time, too. I mean, the acting was solid in this one. When you see other movies from the 70s, this one I felt they were ahead of their game. I don't know what it was. The chemistry between these actors, it's sold. There was a movie I was trying to watch the other day. It's called The Watcher in the Woods or something, but it was a 1979, 1980 flick. it is just hard to watch, Adam. And so, but to my point that some of these movies, like this one, and even Friday the 13th, like the characters were likable. You got this
Yeah.
creepy story background, and you're just along for this ride, and a ride we get is especially Donald Pleasance and his acting as Dr. Loomis. I mean, although at times could be seen over the top, I mean, he's very compelling and convincing as this doctor. At first, someone who wants to try and help this young boy, and turning into somebody who wants to lock up this monster forever.
Well, yeah, and this is a character who has had numerous interactions because Michael Myers is committed to a mental institution. Shortly after he kills his sister, I think it's 6 years old, and presumably this doctor's been working with him the whole time. And so this doctor has more than a decade of experience working with this kid. I'm sure he's gone through like trying all these different things, and he's just come to this conclusion. He's like, can't help this kid. He's just pure evil. Yep. And so yeah, he's tried, and like any good social worker, teacher, psychiatrist, he's like, I tried, and I've got no other tricks up my sleeve.
He spent many years trying to do it. Now there is a really amazing scene that you may have, well, in fact, I know you didn't see it because I let you use the copy that I have. But so that is not even the original cut of Halloween. There is an earlier cut that in the beginning of the film, after Michael does his deal and his parents are standing out in the open, the mom with her hands in her pockets like, oh, what have you been up to? That's one of the worst shots in the entire film. It's when the mom's just kind of like, he has, the dad goes, Michael? And he pulls the mask off. Watch the mom. She just kind of puts her hands in her pockets and just kind of looks at him kind of like, he's at it again. It's just
right.
So bad. But I mean, if that's the only really flaw that I can count from the movie, then that's good. But after that, though, there's a couple scenes that they cut out and when they did a later remastered version. One is a very quiet scene where Dr. Loomis is in like this auditorium and he's sitting in the seat. It's almost like it's a lecture hall. And there's these two doctors at the front and he's trying to convince these doctors and not very many, it's a very short, but not a lot of words scene. And he's trying to convince them about how Michael, needs to be fully locked up and the right precautions taken or whatever. And the doctors are just kind of dismissing him, just saying like, well, we're going to handle him just like every other boy, whatever. Anyways. And then the next scene, and I love this scene, and I cannot believe they cut it. Loomis walks down the hall, and he gets to Michael's room, and he goes in, and little Michael's just sitting there, and he's just sitting in his chair, and he's staring out this window at him. And Dr. Loomis just kind of what he goes, you fooled them, haven't you, Michael? And then again, it pauses, and it's just watching Michael, and he goes back to Loomis, and he goes, but not me. And it's a great, and then it cuts, and it fast forwards to the night when Dr. Loomis and the nurse are on their way out to get him, to bring him to Hardin County, where he's going to get tried and locked away for hopefully the rest of his years. But I thought that was such a crucial scene of Loomis basically seeing that this kid, no way, he is complete and pure evil. I cannot let you get free. And I thought it
is interesting.
Yeah. But other than that, but the movie, it has very good pacing, I feel, throughout. You get to know Laurie Strode, a very likable young girl. I wouldn't really call her sheltered per se, but and her friends, shy and smart, and she even makes the comment, guys think I'm too smart, and your friends,
right.
Annie and Linda, which are both very good characters. What do you think about the characters other than Laurie Strode?
I would say I really enjoyed the interactions between them. I felt like they were. I feel like a lot of teenagers in horror movies, like they're believable, but a little over the top. Like I felt like this one was down to earth the whole time, and it made it more believable.
Yeah,
and I think those three characters were as much a personification of that as anything else.
Absolutely. They just got along very well. Like I said, the chemistry was just working, and just those little moments of Michael following along, kind of stalking his prey, and one could say it's just drawing out the movie, but it is setting things up. I mean, he's kind of observing his prey and kind of getting his plan together for what he's going to be doing that night. Because let's face it, he hadn't killed in over 12 or so years. So I guess just kind of getting his ideas together silently in the background and watching Dr. Loomis just race around trying to get to the sheriff, and I think it's Sheriff Brackett if I'm not mistaken, and just trying to save this town from the havoc that's about to get unleashed. So Halloween, right? Quite a good movie in general, and by the end, it even leaves you kind of open with a bit of a cliffhanger, right? So I guess they knew they must have had something, because to leave it open the way they did, it's perfect.
Right.
And congrats to Jamie Lee Curtis, one of the original Scream queens. And like I said, just believable. And although there's some scenes, of course, where she takes him out, and you know, but she thought he was dead, and there was no reason why he probably should have been dead. She
Right.
stabbed him decently. I mean, she gouged his eye a good one. I mean, a couple of good ones. Now we're smarter these days. Of course, maybe we would have kept stabbing him about 18 more times just to seal the deal.
Well, we want to know who he is, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's another thing too, just knowing who he is, and who knew he was going to get back up and keep coming like that. And you can appreciate that, and maybe not to younger ones of today, because they're like, that's so stupid, why would you do that? But these are all things that you learn over time. For the time, this was brand new. I mean, who would have fathomed, a killer that just the evil keeps him alive, and
Right.
just keeps coming back. So Halloween, very strong movie, but let's not forget about old Friday the 13th is around the corner, 1980. So Adam, what do you think about Friday the 13th?
Yeah, no. So this one's to me it's a little bit more over the top, not necessarily in a bad way, a little bit more shock factor. So, takes place in a camp where where a kid drowned, and then the following year two counselors were murdered in a campsite, and so there's kind of this stigma around this town nearby that the camp is haunted, and it kind of follows these kind of older teenagers going out there and getting the camp set up for the summer, and just lo and behold, while they're out there, something surfaces and they have to deal with it. And that's basically the main premise of Friday the 13th. And I find that, like, comparing and contrasting it to Halloween, like I feel like it takes longer to get to the reveals, but when you get there, they're much more shocking as a result of it, which is why I said it's more over the top and there's more of a shock factor.
There was shock factor. The gore was definitely there in the movie.
Right.
Maybe a bit more than Halloween, I guess it could be said. I mean, there's definitely more
I think
blood.
so.
I'd say there's more blood. But yeah, the chemistry, though, I want to say also between those actors, those young actors, and I found some trivia about this. When they were looking for the cast, they were looking for the kind of kids that you might see, the good-looking kids you might see in like a Pepsi commercial or something of the source. And so,
Okay.
so a lot of these were like theater students, I found out, or at least theater
Huh.
actors. Yeah, at first.
Okay.
And I mean, and even Kevin Bacon, I don't know his full history, but he was part of that group too. But you can't admit they're all probably good-looking guys and gals, and so they're all kind of new to the whole kind of film and TV side. But all the same, they jumped right in and really straight got after it. And they were kind of looking for some other main actors to play Steve Christie, the guy who owns the
Oh.
Camp Crystal Lake, campgrounds. But because they wanted somebody that was going to help draw in the crowds, the high named actor. But apparently, one of the assistant directors that worked on the film, the guy who plays Steve, that was her husband. And so
Huh.
the director had to go over to talk to this assistant director about some stuff. And he saw her husband working in the garden or something like that. He probably had his shirt off, probably had his just jean shorts on, whatever. And apparently, it was almost like an insta hire. He had, and he does have a certain look about him, right?
Yeah, he looks like he's fit. He looks like he's made for the role. Totally agree.
And almost to like a creeper sense. Like I love the scene when him and Alice are over by they're putting up the gutter, and he's looking at her drawings, which I found out Adrienne King,
Alice, right?
Good Lord, I always forget her name. Yeah, so she was actually an artist in general, and so they used that in the film to kind of help along. But there's that scene he goes, do I really look like that? And she goes, you did last night, and he's making these comments. He's like, you're very talented and you're very pretty. I mean, it's just kind of like, hey, creep boy, take it easy, But
Right.
it's insinuating that there's some kind of relationship going on between Alice and Steve Christie.
It does seem that way, yeah. And they don't go into it too much, but yeah, you're right. I think he is the perfect kind of. I don't even know how to say it better than you. Just like that caring but yet slightly creepy counselor.
I mean, he's definitely a good guy. I mean, he doesn't do anything to show him that he's a bad guy. I mean, he tells Alice, hey, if you don't want to stick around, you got to get back home. I'll put you on the bus. I mean, he's a cool guy, clearly, So
yeah.
All props to him. Even the intro scene, and we kind of skipped over that briefly, but showing the Camp Crystal Lake around 1958, and then you get the kids singing the kumbayas and whatever, and then two of the flirties decide to get off, and do their thing. And I'm sure the last thing they were expecting was to get caught, but even more so to get caught and get stabbed and killed by this person, this person of interest,
Right.
which if you haven't seen the movie and you're like, you spoiled it for us, well, shame on you for not seeing this movie. So we know that the main killer in Friday the 13th is Jason Voorhees' mom, right? She plays a pretty good sadistic mom, don't you believe, Adam?
Yeah, and honestly, that's part of why I went for the shock value. Is you wait a long time for that reveal, but when you finally get it, I mean, it's big, and it's not just big because it's big in the sense that you're surprised that it's her. It's big in the sense of how the reveal happens, and it's also big in the sense of how her behavior changes after the reveal. Like, it's a really great basically sequence of events. I mean, like, that part honestly was done masterfully in my opinion.
When she gets out there, she's like, who? Because I think it's already getting crazy. I think a body flies through the window, and she goes out. She goes, "Who are you?" And she goes, "Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees." And she seems so sweet, and she's kind of taking care of her. And I love this line, and I've always loved it for years. I just didn't really talk about it much, but she goes, Alice is like, no, don't go in there. They'll kill you too. And the mom just goes, "I'm not afraid." And she just goes, I'm just like, oh, man, because of course after you've seen this film, if you're rewatching it, you're really watching her acting, and and get this. So the actress that plays Mrs. Voorhees, apparently, when she was at some kind of convention or whatever, and I guess scripts were being kind of passed around or whatever, and she read Friday the 13th, and she literally said aloud, she goes, "This is a piece of shit," and tosses the script across the room or whatever. Apparently, this got back to the writer and what would be the future director, and of course they weren't too happy about that, and kind of feeling like they did a bad job. So, but apparently this woman was so hard up for a new car, and she needed money for the car payment so forth. She took the role pretty much on that premise. That's exactly what. And she had already had a decent acting history, but nothing I would say that was like super like, oh, go see her in this film, whatever. And it's so funny that since she did not enjoy this movie at first, especially reading the script, and in the end, this is the movie she is literally the most known for in her life.
Right. No, and to be fair, I will say, like, she acted out that sequence marvelously. Yes. So, like, for all of her, potential snobbiness, I mean, she backed it up. Like, when she was required to act, she acted.
Yeah, and I think she got a lot of grief for it too, because apparently she played a lot of wholesome roles. You know what I mean? Like good okay. That. So there was even talk of wondering, could she even pull it off? Well, I think she played that one to rest. She did a great job. So congrats to her, hopefully. And I think her feelings changed over the years as it became, more of a beloved, franchise and this and that. I mean, obviously it was a hit from the beginning, but
sure,
but not as big as Halloween. And even the scores on IMDb will show that. And just to kind of interject that, IMDb currently holding a 7.8 is Halloween, 1978, and that's over 225,000 reviews, including myself, which I give it a 10. It is literally my favorite horror slasher film of every movie out there. That's just me though, and I've seen a lot of them too. And I'd love to know what your guys' favorites are too. So make sure you're commenting down in the bottom about what your favorite slasher movie is. But on another side note, then Friday the 13th, 1980, has a 6.5, and look at that, only 117,000 reviews. So I mean, that's almost half of what Halloween is, and only a 2-year spread. And one other little fun fact that I'm gonna let you take over is that Friday the 13th only had like a $575,000 budget. So yeah, it had a little bit more money, and it was still very successful over the years and spans. Collected more than 40 million. Who knows? Probably merchandise and everything else, even more money. So it's up there. It's in the big leagues with Halloween, no doubt about it.
So yeah, and two quick hits based on what you said. So first off, I mean, kind of the big thing, a 6.5 out of 10 is solid for a slasher flick. Honestly, like the genre we're reviewing right now tends not to get great reviews, but I think that also accentuates just how big that 7-8 out of 10 is for Halloween. Granted, it was the original slasher movie, so at that point, nothing was copying it. So at the time it came out, it was fairly unique, and that may be part of why its rating was so high. I think it's an astute observation that Halloween got more votes, and quite honestly, just while we're kind of doing a quick comparison of the two, I think there was something about how Michael Myers was always present throughout the movie while the setting is being developed and shown to you, and while these believable characters are interacting. That was special. I don't know that Friday the 13th ever really lived up to. I mean, Friday the 13th had a lot of things that it did well, but I think the combination of the character interactions with Michael Myers' ominous presence always being there was just hard to
It's
top.
like that train wreck that you know is coming, and you're
Right.
just waiting for it to all go down.
Yep.
And and I was talking with Steph about this the other night when it comes to Friday the 13th, because we watched that one as well, just together for our wonderful movie month October for all the thrillers and horrors and whatever. And it was interesting because Mrs. Voorhees, I think, succeeded because she caught all of those people off guard.
Right.
I mean, she pretty much, once she reveals herself to Alice, you notice that Alice is able to fend her off several times, like four, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And I think
Yeah.
it's just showing that Mrs. Voorhees was not an elite killer or something like that. She used secrecy and her charming look of just being a nice mom or this or that, or just a friend of the family, visiting or this or that. Easily, it's believable. And then she struck when she could, or struck in the shadows where she could, and she was very good at it. But when she finally got to Alice, she met her match. It's not even like Alice was an elite killer, but she wanted to live, and that's what helped give her that edge over Mrs. Voorhees, I think, in the end. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Although I will say it's Laurie in Halloween, right?
Yes, Laurie Strode.
Okay, I will say that Laurie went toe to not maybe not toe to toe, but Laurie kind of held her own against Michael Myers too. So, but the thing is, Michael Myers kept getting back up. So maybe that's the thing that really separated Michael Myers from Mrs. Voorhees, is that no matter how hard you fight against him, he keeps showing back up. Whereas Mrs. Voorhees, was eventually dropped. But no, I agree. Like, and actually, that was one of the things that I liked about both movies versus a lot of the slasher films that followed, was that when it finally got down to that last teenager character, they put up a fight. They didn't just cower in the corner. Like, they fought for their lives, and like they both basically won. I thought that was a really cool concept. I'm kind of sorry to see that the horror, that aren't more movies in the horror genre that kind of borrow that. So
there's so much that's been done. I mean, there's tons of movies. There's even more slashers. I mean, there's ones I've seen called like Slaughter High. It's in like 1986. It's a piece of crap, but it's fun. It's a fun piece of crap,
right.
You're enjoying the cheese along the way. Like I was talking with Jeremy and his wife Missy tonight in their podcast, PC Bombcast, by the way. Check it out. They are on Facebook. I think they're on some of the other. I'll get the other names too. I'll get them in the notes for you guys. But they're a good crew. I'm on one of them that's going to be coming up here. They're going to release it later this week. So PC Bombcast, BOMB cast. They're good stuff. But anyways, as I was talking to it, I was just saying that 80s, although cheesy, it had some good cheese in there. I mean, think of your best cheese, and you're enjoying a slice while you're watching. Me beer cheese. I think that's a pretty tasty cheese. But all the same, there's a lot of fun things that were going on in these movies, and it was experimental. But funny enough, when it comes to Friday the 13th, Adam. So as I read that the director and the writer actually admitted that they were going off of the success of Halloween, like completely, like they don't even deny it. They totally knew that they were totally kind of ripping some certain things off.
Oh, yeah, and having watched, like, I watched them both in sequence the past couple days, and like, having watched Halloween, I mean, like, you can tell that Friday, whether it's intended to be so or not, I mean, Friday the 13th very much feels like an adaptation of Halloween, and the biggest differences, in my opinion, are the setting. Like, one's in a town, one's in a campground. And then the presence of the killer. Michael Myers is always there. Mrs. Voorhees is technically always there, but you don't really know her until the end.
You see those shots, right? They come from like the other side of the lake, right?
Yeah.
When she's looking at it. And there's always a really great scene I want to talk to about Friday the 13th. It's funny that they had a lot of great scenes, really, when you think about it. But like Nettie, he's the big jokester one, right? And all of them, they're like swimming out there, and at one point he starts acting like he's drowning and he goes under, right? And then all the friends jump in, and Kevin Bacon, whatever, they get him up there, they start doing CPR, and then all of a sudden he like puts his arms around one of the gals and gives him a kiss. He was totally faking it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah. I know what you're
but
talking
I
about.
can't help but think to myself how much that must have pissed Mrs. Voorhees off, probably watching that across the way,
Oh
knowing
yeah,
that her son drowned like that. I was just like, man, she was probably just fueling. Maybe that's why Nettie was one of the first ones to get it. But
could be.
all the same, yeah, they. I will say, even if they did rip certain things off or certain visual styles, they definitely still achieved a good horror slasher film, no doubt.
Well, and I think going back to one of the original points was made earlier is that what it did differently is it went for the shock factor, and I think that was where it distinguished itself for Halloween. Like Halloween was very much a slow building, just very creepy
Yes.
movie to the time when that murder actually happened. It's almost like, why did we have to wait this long for someone to get killed? Like you just thought it was going to happen
Right.
already. But whereas like in Friday the 13th, it's like they seem like they just jump out of nowhere.
Yep.
And so I think the horror in Friday the 13th really comes from that shock
Yes.
factor. And I appreciated the slow build and Halloween more, but like I could totally see how someone would look at Friday the 13th, really want that shock factor and say, no, I definitely preferred that. And I wouldn't have a counter argument for it.
I would too. And if for our devout listeners actually join in and stay with these all the way through, leave us some comments. Let us know, what do you think between Friday the 13th and Halloween? What is your favorite film? And give a quick little thing why. I mean, it can be a few words or it can be a whole paragraph. I don't care why. It's not that you can be wrong. It's just we're just curious all the same. We
Yeah.
love hearing the comments back from you all, and I'd like to respond to them. Halloween just gives me that special feeling of October and just that evil presence and what an evil person can really set out to achieve. And just the performances from the other actors and actresses, they just do such a wonderful job. And when you talk sequels, and we're not going to get into all of them, we'd be here for 3-4 hours or more. But Halloween has a troubled past of sequels. There's no doubt. And when they had Halloween came out, they did Halloween 2 and backed it straight back. They go to the hospital where Laurie's going, and that's where the showdown goes with Michael and stuff, amongst some other scenes or whatever. But after that, then they kind of kill him off at the end. And I guess they figured, well, man, we got a hell of a franchise on. We can't just stop. So they created like other, like, if you want to say, other like stories within the universe. And that was when Halloween 3 Season of the Witch goes, where basically this evil mass corporations are creating these masks that are going to explode on Halloween and kill tons of people. And it's this doctor and this young woman who are going to try and unveil this and stop them. Anyways, at first I always thought it was a complete pile of trash, but the more I've watched it, I've actually really come to grow fond of Halloween 3, even though it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. And then after that, though, then they realized, okay, that one wasn't the greatest hit. Let's get back to Michael. And by that time, I'm sure I think Friday the 13th was already starting their hits, so they thought, hey, we may have a thing here. And I guess they produced another 4, 5, 6 even Halloween movies after. You got Halloween 4 and 5 with Danielle Harris, the young little girl, another little scream queen. And you have The Curse of Michael Myers with Paul Rudd. And then you had Halloween H2O. There was Halloween Resurrection, where they do like a podcast, like TV style, where these 5 or 6 teens have to go into this house and investigate the story of Michael Myers, except Michael's back and he's like knocking them off in the house. Anyways, so that, and then you have the newer Michael Myers movies by Rob. Anyways, there's tons of them, right? And they've always had a hard time kind of really getting their footing and saying, this is original canon, or this is original, or no, we're going to get rid of these two, but we're going to keep this one. And in Friday the 13th, not much different. They had a couple of great sequels, and then after that, they kind of started getting hit or miss, with the storylines. But I think that's the problem with a lot of sequels; they'll just never live up to the first movie.
Well, and I think unlike there are trilogies that are written as a trilogy and they just test to see how well the first movie does. I honestly believe that both Halloween and Friday the 13th were written as standalone films. And honestly, I think the concept of bringing Jason back, in the subsequent Friday the 13th films is a cool concept. So I'm not dogging that, but like none of the sequels had the original director directing them, and John Carpenter is listed as a writer for Halloween 2, and that's the largest amount of involvement that I've seen from any of the major players on the original film. So I think that part of the reason that the plots get so convoluted is because different groups of people get their hands on them and then they want to do different things with it.
Not much different than the most recent Star Wars trilogy, right? When they had different
Right.
writers and directors for each damn film. Now, true, they ended up having Abrams come back to do it, but the point is, different visions, different parts of the
Right.
stories, and they want to make it their own. And so, I think when it came to John Carpenter, I thought they offered him to direct it, but I don't think he wanted anything to do with it. I think he saw how much was involved with the first one. Um, and so it got handed off. And anyways, there's other history in there too. Check out the trivia. It's actually pretty interesting. When it came to Friday the 13th, Steve Miner, who was involved with the first one, I can't remember these exact role. I'll try and toss it up here for you guys if I can. But he ended up directing. And the funny thing was, he didn't love it. And he also didn't love the idea that the producing companies wanted to bring back Jason, from the dead. He thought it was kind of a silly concept. Yet he went on to direct Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3.
Huh. It's that golden ticket for him, I guess. It could opportunity too good to pass up, even if maybe you're not 100% happy with it. But that's funny.
You face certain things, I guess, when you're trying to come up in the industry. And let's face it, when you get your big shot, I mean, are you really going to turn that down?
Yeah, you take it.
You take the shot and pray that it all works out. And for some people, it does, and others maybe not so much. But when it comes down to it, on our final thoughts, I guess we should probably get into on these movies. Halloween. I've always enjoyed coming back to this movie every year. I've seen this movie so many times. I mean, I say like 50 times, if that's probably exaggerating, but it's more times than the average person would absolutely watch this movie.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I know I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it nearly as many times as you, obviously, but like the thing that got me about Halloween is like I feel like almost every slasher movie, even Friday the 13th, which I liked, has a moment where I look at the teenagers or whoever the victims are and I say, I can't believe you just did that. Halloween doesn't. I mean, there are some moments that are debatable, but Halloween for me, like I can relate to all. I'm like, that's just stuff that kids do,
right?
And like, and wow, so the characters are so believable, and like Michael Myers just ominous presence throughout the entire movie, just adds this creepy element that, in my opinion, is unbeatable amongst slasher flicks. Unbeatable.
Yeah, they call him actually the Shape. And they don't even call him I don't think my wife's in the first film or the second one, I don't think, but either way, but that's so fitting too because he's that object in the background. And those shots when they were always peering over from the house that Laurie was babysitting in, and you saw him standing outside the front, and just a little bit of that white man.
Yeah,
you got to hand it to the lighting and other crew members they had. I think they shot the thing in under a month, which is very impressive as well. So it just, I go into some of the battles they had to go through and just a lot of the fun times that was had. And, Friday the 13th will always hold a special place in my movie viewing heart as well. But when it comes down to it, and it seems the masses agree too, Halloween is the winner.
Indeed. No argument for me. You said it 100% right.
Perfecto. Well, so we're moving through this month awfully quickly. We have only a week or two left before you're actually going to get to Halloween, and I'm getting my Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead and even World Beyond reviews out, which I hope you guys are joining in for those. I get those out really late on Sunday night and until almost the wee hours of Monday. But Adam and I are going to be back hopefully next week with another movie. Hopefully, I think we're going to do something a little more recent. So I gave Adam a few different movies to check out. So I think, Adam, maybe we might have a chance to try that maybe Ready or Not movie. That was 2019.
I'll check it out.
So we might try that one, and if that one falls through, I think there was a couple other home ones we might check out, and we have some other more recent movies that I want to actually dive into because I just haven't seen them. There's so much cinema out there to watch between TV shows. There's one I even gave Adam, a Raised by Wolves. I wanted him to check out. Awesome sci-fi, kind of thriller-ish. That was on HBO Max. So, anyways, a lot of great content out there. Adam, any final thoughts for the viewers or anything else?
No, just like you said earlier, Mike, leave us your comments. Honestly, I think there are a lot of good reasons to like Friday the 13th. So whether you're with us on Halloween or rather watch Friday the 13th, let us know and let us know why. Looking forward to seeing what you say.
Perfectly stated. So with that said, this is the ZMAM Show. Mike and Adam here, and we will see you guys at the next review.
Adios.